that it would flow outward.
I think absolutely. Yes. I think you'd be covered in used food, and maybe even worse, that chemical that's designed to keep you free from its nastiness. This might be worse for you than anything else.
That blue fluid. So our rather measured friend there, they think it's funny, but I'd like to assure them it could end in a way that's not funny. Way to bring the thunder, brother.
How much, you little MFers? As soon as I get out of here, I gotta beat your heads in, all right? You think you're funny? I'm gonna drag you home by your eyelids and tell your parents about that.
Well, you're gonna get a swirly in the porta potties. What you're gonna get?
That's right. You think it's funny? Well, guess what? You're going for a swim.
Ooh.
I would like to make it clear that though this might seem funny to young people, it's less funny than it seems.
They're mistaken. You see, there is a downside to this, and I would like to point out.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Well, how much time do we have? I have some somewhat good news, at least a glimmer of hope from the world of education. The president of Dartmouth just came out and said, yeah, we're going back to using SATs and ACTs.
Dartmouth, because why? They're having trouble figuring out whether or not people qualified to get in? You end up with a bunch of students.
Dartmouth, of course, is an elite university, Jack.
But you end up with a bunch of students that can't figure out 4 times 15?
Well, the new president arrived and asked some professors to do an internal study on standardized tests. They had dropped it like all sorts of colleges did during the pandemic, a lot of them out of woke reasoning. Our business is looking at data and research and understanding the implications it has. 3 Dartmouth economists and a sociologist then dug into the numbers. One of their main findings did not surprise them. Test scores were a better predictor than high school grades, or student essays, or teacher recommendations of how well students would fare at Dartmouth. And the evidence of this relationship is large and growing.
So, but what was
interestingly out of the New York Times?
But so the knock on these scores was that rich white kids can afford to get tutors that help them pass the test better. So it was an advantage to rich white kids.
And a better way to appraise whether kids would do well in college was their grades. Of course, we all know now the median grade is an A.
Right.
In a lot of high schools and colleges, yeah.
Yeah, half the class is straight A.
A second finding was more surprising. During the pandemic, Dartmouth switched to a test-optional policy in which applicants could choose whether to submit their SAT and ACT scores, and this policy was harming lower-income students in a specific way. Researchers were able to analyze test scores even of students who had not submitted them to Dartmouth, because colleges can see the scores after the admissions process is finished. Many lower-income students, it turned out, had made a strategic mistake. They withheld test scores that would have helped them get into Dartmouth. They wrongly believed their scores were too low, when in truth the admissions office would have judged the scores to be a sign that students had overcome a difficult environment and could maybe thrive at Dartmouth.
Now, here's what you do. You have me, or somebody like me, interview any of these people for 20 minutes. I feel like I could talk to anybody for 20 minutes and tell you whether or not they're college material, and I don't need anything else other than the conversation. Don't you think you could do that?
Yeah, and I believe you could do that too, honestly.
Don't you think you could do that with pretty good accuracy?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I would be less good at, I would be less good. I think the term I'm looking for is useless for some of the technical professions. Oh, yeah, sure. Somebody wants to be a philosophy major or like a quantum physics guy. No, you might as well have to talk to a cat as me.
I think I can figure out whether or not you're college material.
Yeah, I see your point.
Maybe that is really elitist and an awful thing to say, but it is what I believe. We do 4 hours every day. If you miss a segment or an hour, get the podcast Armstrong and Getty on demand.
Armstrong and Getty.
Why don't you go ahead and sing the new jingle just to get it out of the way, Jack?
Big mountain, eating it.
These are the folks. They've been doing their thing for about 20 years in the Sacramento area, and they're offering this 2-for-1 rejuvenation of your furnace and air conditioning system that is not, I repeat, not some sort of sales gimmick or drive-by. It's 2 to 3 serious hours of work from the best techs in Northern California who will actually work to rejuvenate your system. It's an audition. They want to impress you, so they become your heating and air company.
And so to make sure that you don't feel like, yeah, it's $78, you're not going to do anything, and you're just trying to find something wrong to sell me something, they got some guarantees with the $78. You're going to save up to $78 off your bill, or you get your money back, so it's worth it. I mean, you're going to come out at least even. And it guarantees over the next year, your furnace, your air conditioner will not shut down.
Yep, go to BigMountainAir.com to book this 2-for-1 rejuvenation. BigMountainAir.com. You're going to save more than you spend and keep your system running. BigMountainAir.com.
Armstrong and Getty, weekdays 6 till 10 at Sacramento's best talk all day. And iHeart's radio station, Talk 650 KSE, Rancho Cordova, Sacramento.
There's a couple of things to hate about California. I mentioned last week the gasoline is unique and different from the rest of the country's gasoline in that if it sits for sometimes just a couple of weeks, it will ruin any engine that's got a carburetor. And that doesn't happen anywhere else in the country. We do it because of the stupid, in-theory environmental crap that doesn't do any good, but ruins all kinds of engines. And a lot of people went to start their generators that had gas sitting in them from last year and found out they wouldn't start because of California gas. That's a crime that the state has done that. Anyway, you go out to buy a generator like we did, and they are hard to find. I mean, they are slim pickings. You got the tiny little one that would barely charge your phone, or you got the great big giant one that is way too expensive, and none of the in-betweens are available. So good luck out there going to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever and finding a generator right now.
Yeah, you really just have to buy one when you don't need one. I mean, given the lack of reliability of various utilities, etc.
Well, and then my point about don't let the gas sit in there, because California, if you ever lived somewhere else where you could let gas sit in a motor like I did when I was a kid, you can let it sit there for a year. It's no big deal. You can't let it sit there for 2 weeks in California. Anyhow, news now with Katie Green.
Thank you, guys. The United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit has granted a stay allowing California's ammunition controls to be enforced as District Judge Roger Benitez's ruling is being appealed.
Yeah, so the window for buying ammunition like the rest of the country does, like is your constitutional right, was what, 2 days? 2 days? I should have bought during 2 days. A friend of mine just texted me and said he bought 1,000 rounds during that tiny window. I wish I had gotten around to it.
And San Francisco Elementary School that invested $250,000 into woke education has predictably seen its students' test scores plummet. 2 years ago, Glassbrook Elementary School paid $250,000 in federal grant money to Look Kindergarten, a company that uses propaganda to indoctrinate children. The company's website states that it is designed to support children's families, educators, and organizers in their commitment to early education and pro-black and queer and trans liberation.
Pro-queer and trans liberation for kindergartners. Mm-hmm. They are sexualizing your children. They are groomers.
So how are the students doing? English and math scores hit new lows last spring with less than 4% of their students proficient in math and just under 12% at grade level in English.
That's a crime. That is a crime against the kids.
And a heartbroken Davis family is pleading with thieves to return their son's ashes that were stolen right out of their home. The father, Michael O'Brien, showed how the thieves broke into his home, climbing up the backyard trellis and shattering a glass door on the home's second floor before ransacking the bathroom and bedroom, stealing high-priced jewelry along with their son's ashes. Davis police say second-floor break-ins are unusual, but this break-in comes following a series of burglaries in Davis, and investigators are working to see if there happens to be a connection.
So they weren't specifically looking for ashes. They just took something they thought might be valuable and had the ashes in. Okay.
Right.
Sure, they thought it was a jewelry box.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and the family's like, we don't care, no questions asked, just give us that back.
I'm sure the Davis City Council is going to say these people only steal because of systemic oppression and they're driven by their desperation. We can't judge them for that.
Right.
Or you could beat them down.
Take us with you on your free iHeartRadio app for your music, radio, and podcast. And now, traffic on Talk 650 KSDE.
Got a stall west on 50 around Watt Avenue, last seen in the left lane. Had that crash on East 50 near Bradshaw, clear up to the shoulder. Also had a drive time on West 50, 34 minutes from Folsom to downtown Sacramento. West Cap City, 16 minutes from the split to downtown. Traffic every 10 minutes, mornings and afternoons on KFBK News Radio, 93.1 FM, 1530 AM.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print Big Sale means the more you print, the more you save. Get $20 off your print purchase of $100 or more, $50 off your print purchase of $200 or more, and $100 off your print purchase of $300 or more. Ends 2/10/24. See staples.com/print for details. Print more, save more at Staples.
Contact Tax Relief Helpers for details and restrictions. Attention anyone that owes money to the IRS. The IRS has restarted aggressive enforcement actions against taxpayers who owe back taxes that were temporarily suspended for COVID. If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this because now is the time to clear your IRS tax debt. A special toll-free number has been established so you can stop penalty fees, avoid liens, levies, and other hostile measures by the IRS. Call Tax Relief Helpers right now at 800-374-2103. Tax Relief Helpers will provide you with the maximum protection afforded by law.
I got behind on my taxes and owed $48,000. I didn't know what to do. I called and they got my bill lowered to just $3,500.
I owed $87,000 in taxes and it was scary. I got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
If you owe money to the IRS, don't wait another day. Call 800-374-2103 right now before the IRS enforces liens, levies, and other aggressive measures. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call now. Call 800-374-2103. 800-374-2103. 800-374-2103.
KFCE has your chance to win $1,000 now. Enter this nationwide keyword on our website, bank. That's bank. Enter it now at KFCE.com.
Brought to you by Subcontractors United. From the Abraham Lincoln Radio Studio, the George Washington Broadcast Center, Jack Armstrong and Joe Getty. Armstrong and Getty Show.
What is 15 times 4?
Gosh.
23? 48. 48. 48.
48.
48.
They asked college in Georgia. They asked 4 college kids walking down the sidewalk, what's 15 times 4? They acted like they were being asked to recite the periodic table and its weights. Like, just who would ask that? What a crazy, out-of-nowhere trivia question.
Right. And then everybody's like looking around, and the one gal finally 48. Everybody's like, yeah, 48. I'm with her, 48.
I like the first guess of 23. So if there are 4 15s, it's going to be somewhere around 23.
Good guess, yeah. Anyway, so I was reminded of that when I saw this. One of my favorite, or it's a good, solid Twitter follow anyway. So I'm at Walmart scanning and bagging my almost $300 worth of groceries while the employee that wants $15 an hour monitors. Then this happens. Her. Why are you double bagging all of your groceries? Me. Excuse me? You're wasting our bags. If you don't like the way I'm bagging the groceries, feel free to come on over here and bag them yourself. That's not my job. Well, okay, then I will bag my groceries how I please, if that's all right with you. Why are you using 2 bags? Because the bags are weak and I don't want the handles to break or the bottoms to rip out. Well, that's because you're putting too much stuff in the bag. If you took half of that stuff out and put it in a different bag, then you wouldn't need to have a bag. Okay, seconds of me just staring at her. Me. So you want me to split these items in half and put half of them in a different bag so that I don't have to double bag? Exactly. So I would still be using 2 bags to hold the same number of items. No, because you wouldn't be double bagging.
Okay.
Me pressing 2 fingers to my left eye in an attempt to make it stop twitching. Okay. So here I have a jug of milk and a bottle of juice. Double bag. If I take the milk out and remove the double bagging and just put the milk in a single bag and the juice in that single bag, I'm still using 2 bags for these 2 items. No, because you're not double bagging them, so it's not the same number of bags.
Now, come on.
Kennesaw State grad right there. Class A moron. Anyway, Well, this is what happens teaching intersectionality and settler colonialism instead of reading and writing. And then at the opposite end of the age scale, you've got our going on non-engineering president who was speaking in Las Vegas at a big campaign-ish gathering. Not that he's really campaigning. It's becoming more and more clear they're hiding him in the basement. The idea that he would not do, the president has turned down the opportunity to do a friendly field softball campaign/pushing his priorities interview before the Super Bowl ought to be scary to most Americans. His people believe he's not coherent enough, which is just unbelievable. It's an advertisement. It's an advertisement on the pregame of the Super Bowl.
So Jonathan Martin of Politico, not a right-winger, tweeted out yesterday, if you don't think somebody who's skipping the Super Bowl pregame interview 2 years in a row, a massive free media opportunity, is looking to avoid any unforced errors, you should pay closer attention. That's from Politico. With their headline being Senior Democrats' Private Take on Biden, he's too old.
Of course. It's self-evident. This is straight out of The Emperor's New Clothes, where the courtiers pretend that the king has wonderful new clothes, and everybody can see he's naked. They just don't have the courage to say it.
Which includes, by the way, in Jonathan Martin's article in Politico, so Biden was hit with the question yesterday when he was somewhere about debating Trump, and he said, if I were him, I'd want to debate me too. He's got nothing else to do. I'm not exactly sure what that answer means. But Jonathan Martin, Politico, said, now cometh the news cycle when Dems realize Biden is going to avoid debate, hope they can pin it on Trump for not doing debate with his rival, that they can make that argument. So that's never going to happen. And Jonathan Martin said this has literally been the Biden plan for a year. They believe that Trump or any other Republican nominee will be reluctant to work with the Commission on Presidential Debates, lessening the chances and risk of a head-to-head debate. So for a variety of reasons, there's unlikely to be a debate between Trump and Biden. I'm not sure that works to Trump's deficit. I think the worst thing that can happen for Trump at this point is he reminds a certain chunk of society who he is.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Because Trump loyalists are voting for him anyway. And then there's a certain crowd that's just so fed up with the left. They're willing to give Trump a chance. And I think if he's on stage spouting some of his stuff, they might be, yeah, right. There he goes on about the stolen election again. And it might not be a bad thing for Trump not to debate either.
These are strange times.
I would say, here's your fight.
Unless you want to get it back.
I don't know, sounds pretty sharp there. Here's Biden in Las Vegas. One of the keys to understand or enjoying this, Dave, is that Francois Mitterrand died 28 years ago.
Right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders. It was in the south of England. And I sat down and I said, America's back. And Mitterrand from France looked at me and said, you know, how long are you back for? And I looked at him, and the Chancellor of Germany said, what would you say, Mr. President? He picked up the paper tomorrow in the London Times. And the London Times said, 1,000 people break through the House of Commons, break down the doors. 2 bobbies are killed in order to stop the election of the Prime Minister. What would you say? I never thought about it from that perspective. What would we say if that happened in another democracy around the world? Well, the whole world watched. The whole world watched. And what's going on? Well, guess what? It's not going to happen. You know what's going to happen if he loses. He's going to lose. You know, this guy has an interesting vocabulary. He calls immigrants vermin, who poison the blood of the nation. It's hard to make this up.
It's kind of all over the place. Not a horrible point about the whole, what if you saw this in another country? I mean, if the same thing that happened January 6th happened in London or Paris or Berlin, the capital of Germany?
Maybe, Jack. We're still checking.
No,
Munich.
I would watch that news all day long and think, what the hell is going on there?
Sure, yeah. On the other hand, the rambling incoherence at either end of that, and I said Mitterrand is the president of Germany, or France.